If there's still time on the clock, you're still in the game. Don't count yourself out. You can't count yourself out. You just can't. We allow ourselves to take ourselves out of the game just because things didn't work out as planned. But I think we forget that the universe, she is 10 times wiser than we are. We have to trust her. She knows what she's doing, even if it hurts. Welcome to Glow Up. If you're new, because I do see some new faces, my name is Vanessa Santos. I'm just here for the women who refuse to fucking settle. It's really that simple. And for those of you that are not new, thank you for taking the time to come to our last session. And I'm going to get into why this is the last session. One of my life's mission has been researching, calling attention to, and doing something about the wealth gap for women in this country and around the world, frankly. I believe that the women's economy grows when women stop undervaluing what they carry. And so much of that is learned, is inherited, and we have the opportunity and the privilege to break those patterns. I say this a lot. You are not the problem, but you are the pattern. Not every exchange will look the same. Sometimes it's money, sometimes it's access, sometimes it's a stage or a room that changes the trajectory of your business. But every exchange should feel equitable and it should move you forward. And there's nothing wrong with free. And I say that because I offer so much for free. However, in this season of life, I also can't stand on that belief while operating in a way that contradicts it. So I made the decision that today is the last glow up. And I feel really good about it because this space gave hundreds of women a place to feel seen, to feel safe, to be supported. I have been hosting free community office hours for 4.5 years. That is 54 sessions nonstop. I take that with a massive amount of pride because to know that thousands of women have found each other, saw each other, have grown, have done things that I also aspired to do, it means so much for me and for all of you. And I'm refining. There's so many other ways to remain connected. That's the beauty of life, that we get to give ourselves as many chances as we want to start over, to change our minds, to pivot, to do the things that feel good for us, all while trying to make money sustainably so that we're not burning ourselves out and breaking ourselves apart in the name of service or community. And as somebody who has experienced the highs of highs financially, and I'm super honest and open about that, specifically in my newsletters, nobody taught me about money. I really thought I had made it for life. Oh my goodness, when you think of the naivete, but that naivete is what got me to where I am. And then there were seasons where I made a lot of big investments and took a lot of risks, and not every investment works out. And that's just how the game works. And I can't beat myself up about it because I learn as I go. Life is my business school. Doing it is business school. And so I needed to put myself in an environment where I'm learning through putting things into practice and being physically in motion. There have been seasons where I only could afford a protein shake, and I had so much shame telling my friends and family about that. But the moment that I let go of the shame and own the fact that that does not dictate my worth, that does not make me any less valuable, worthy, my whole system felt liberated. And then, of course, that's when the actual abundance comes in, because we're creating from a place of power and knowing versus lack and scarcity. And I lived in that space for so long. And that's one of the reasons why I also started Letters from the In-Between, because we always celebrate beginnings. We don't ever respect the women that have endings in our life. We don't celebrate them. And life doesn't happen here and here. Life happens everywhere here. For me, it's important to talk about because there's so much nuance to what we experience every day as business owners, as mothers, as caregivers, as sisters, as eldest daughters, as first in this country, as first in general in our families, as the first to quit a corporate job and venture off into something else and have everybody around you acting like you're crazy when you just know that there's something inside telling you, pulling you towards something greater. You may not know what it is, but you could feel that it's meant for something more. And so I'm just so in awe of women and our resiliency, which is why I say in this lifetime and in the next lifetime, I only want to come back as a woman. That's it, period, full stop, because anything else just feels like subpar. I want to just start with saying thank you to you all who have joined and connected. Thank you to those that have participated as part of the table. The table is the offering where we go deep with women who are ready to be seen in their brilliance and in their business. And we work in a very collaborative, intimate space. I know so many of you from the table are here, and I'm really happy to have seen how your businesses have evolved. You've made $20,000 months, $1 million quarters, just out of being in that environment, in that space. And it fills my heart with so much joy. So I want to say thank you for all of you for just being here. The women who really move the needle are the women who invest in themselves, not just money, but skin in the game. Those are the women that I build with and build for, because it takes a serious amount of tenacity and self-belief to keep going when it's much easier to just give up. It's much easier to just be like, oh, well, maybe it wasn't for me, but you know that it is for you. And for the women who decided to just be themselves, and there's no greater feeling than being yourself, because the best thing that will happen is that you lose the people who aren't meant to be in your life. We don't want supporting characters that add no value to our movie. Absolutely not. We want characters in our life who see us, who love us, who want to support us, who check in on us. And we deserve to have that. We deserve to have all of that. Today, what we're doing is we're going to do a live brand strategy. For those of you who don't know Tiffany, she did my business astrology, and I was listening to it. And there's something that she said that I was like, oh, this is why I'm rich bitch energy every day, because of my placements. This is why I operate in the way that I do. We often feel that we need to have compassionate pricing, and I think there could be a ladder, but we forget that our lived experience is wisdom that requires a specific price, because that energy and value is valuable. And Tiffany, in doing my astrology business chart, was like, this is why you operate on a premium level. And this is why the women who enter your world then enter the premium level, because just through that alliance, it changes something in them. And so thank you, Tiffany, for doing the reading. I'm going to start with my brand strategy process, because a few of you have asked in terms of how do I do that, how I've built brands across the board. I went to this New York event being the only one who was no longer a C-suite. I was the only one in that room who was no longer the CEO of a company. And I was sitting at the dinner table and this rooftop that my mentor just bought a building in New York City on Broome Street. And I'm just like, how did I find myself here? And then I had to tell myself, we're not doing that again, because I used to say that when I was younger as if I didn't belong. And it's not fair to tell yourself that you don't belong just because no one around you looks like you, just because your starting line is different than their starting line. And at the dinner, my mentor and founder of the company went around thanking everybody. And then when he got to me and I was sitting to his right, he said, and I also want to make sure that I thank Vanessa, because she was the only one who wasn't a cost center. A cost center means that they are spending money, not making the money. I was the one making the money. It reminded me of, oh, you're right. I did do that. I did help make the company $120 million in year 2 of its business. That is unheard of in New York City. It did feel nice to be reminded on what we do and who we are, because we're so quick to discount what we've actually done. And so that night at 2 a.m, when I could not sleep, I took my journal and I wrote down a list of all the things that I'm actually proud of, so that I never fucking forget. My brand strategy process comes from helping to build those global brands, expanding them to 127 countries. So whenever anybody comes to me and they want to discuss the plethora of issues, I always ask them, what is driving the needle for you in terms of money? Focus on the right side of the problem, because the right side of the problem should be tied to revenue. And then you use that revenue to solve all the other problems. Everything else is just a facade. Changing your logo, editing the copy on your website 50 million times, none of it going to make the same impact as infrastructure, as understanding the world that you are building and ensuring that you're priced for the people that you're trying to serve. We're not trying to serve everybody. So when someone comes to me confused about what their brand, it's never a branding problem. Sometimes I'm like, your visuals don't match what you're trying to sell. And I will always keep it real. But it's truly an identity problem, and it's not a business question. I'm grabbing this script from all of the intake forms that I've received for over 4.5 years. So I have hundreds of information on business owners and the things that they struggle with, and it's 6 same questions. And one of them is, I don't know how to talk about what I do. But what they actually mean is, I don't know who I am in this work yet. And I think that's okay. So how do we approach it? One, I think we have to separate the layers. Most people are trying to say everything in one sentence or say everything in one paragraph. It's the same thing with creating content. When it's a story about your life, you have to pick one micro moment, but we try to fit it all in as if we don't have 365 days a year to talk about ourselves or to talk about our business. We try to do it all in one shot, and then we lose the plot, we lose the point, and we lose the people that we want to serve. Trying to do everything at once hurts us, because then we're cramming too much information and no one is going to be able to digest that. So what you need is a differentiated position, a position on who you are in the market, the space that you own, the service of what you actually deliver, but not going through the list of my cup is ceramic and my cup is this, and it has this beautiful design, because no one cares. Everyone cares about what will it do for them. And so if you had a cup, I would market it as, it feels good when you touch it, because every sip will feel like home. An emotional resonance to everything that you do can be applied to your business so you can help build more sales. The other thing that I try to help people with is how to help people find one sentence. If you can say what you do in one sentence, you can then add to it, which is why I started with very simple. I'm just here for the women who refuse to settle. That can mean a lot, versus I'm here for the women who refuse to settle because I lost you. I absolutely lost you. So if you can say what you do in one sentence, doesn't need to be a tagline or slogan. It's specific enough that someone immediately knows that it's for them, or unusual enough that it will stick, or true enough that you don't give a fuck if it feels cringe. It's going to land with the people who are going to be ready to work with you and collaborate with you. In terms of branding, what actually helps for people to move the needle is name the transformation. As I mentioned, people don't buy services. They buy the version of themselves on the other side of that experience, of that service, of that product, of purchasing that skincare, of purchasing that coaching package, being part of that mastermind. So how does someone feel before they work with you? And what do they feel after? That gap is your product, and then use that gap to name the product. And finally, I want you to price from conviction. Because if you feel nervous saying the number on what your product costs and what your service costs, your client is going to feel it, because the price isn't just math. It's a statement about how you feel and your worthiness. And also, if someone says no, it's not on you, it's on them. Because a lot of people will ask, is it worth it? My question is always in return, do you think you're worth it? It's really that simple. It's not about manipulation. It's not about sales psychology. It's very simple. Do you actually think that you spending $650 or $100 for a month, for example, the Manifest House offers so much programming for a small membership fee, and people are still questioning it. I'm like, do you understand the value of what you would get if you have a membership community that gives you meditation, that gives you somatic processes, that gives you community, and you're then walking, going places, still feeling alone? You're the problem. And many times people don't realize that they're the barrier to their own success and to their own opportunity. Let me pull Mercy up. Okay.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
It's good. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
All right, Mercy. I know we haven't worked together before intimately, but here's what I have to say, and I always caveat. I'm holding your hand as I say this. I'm incredibly direct, but it comes from a place of love because I want to see your brand grow. For those women that have been part of the table, they understand that sometimes it may come off as I'm yelling, but I'm yelling because I care. I'm not actually yelling or raising my voice, but it feels that way to the soul, because I'm not going to be the place that I'm just going to coddle you and hold you. That will not serve you, and that does not serve me. I actually wouldn't feel good about that. I'm reading your intake form now, and you have a really cool product and positioning that I don't know if you are fully monetizing and maximizing yet. So first, I want to reflect back what I heard, because you said in your own intake form, I am an officiant, a ceremony curator, a community builder, and that sounds like a lot, or all three. You put a question mark. And what I want to clarify for you and bring home for you is you are all three, but they're not equal, and they cannot go in your bio in the same way. So I want to break it down, because you question those three different things as if they're opposites. They can work together, but they are layered, and they should be treated as different systems within your whole ecosystem. Her brand name is Mercy the Officiant. So when I asked her about her brand and business, she says, I'm a bilingual wedding and quinceañera ceremony curator based in Chicago. I create personalized ceremonies that help couples and families feel seen, included, and celebrated, while also building community through Novias y Cafecito, a space for Latina brides to connect and learn. I was like, let's fucking go. I just love that. That's so niche that it works really well. And also happy Pride. The word officiant is a commodity word. Anyone can get ordained online and call themselves an officiant. That's not to minimize at all your experience, but that word doesn't capture what you do, I don't believe. It's like a chef saying someone who cooks. We know this. Technically true, but it's not memorable. And so ceremony curator, what you had in your intake form, is actually closer because it's more elevated. And it also says, I don't just show up and read a script, read whatever I have to read. I design an experience. I architect the moment that the brides can feel like they chose each other. You know, you curate moments that they will never forget. And so that's a different thing. That's a different feeling. That's also different positioning. But even the word curator, I feel like I'm looking at your intake, feels like you might be underselling what you said, because then you also shared you help families feel seen, included, and celebrated. What you have is the opportunity to remind people that the world is going to be full of noise and everybody there is there to celebrate you. Don't lose sight of that, because this moment can go by and will go by so fast. And you have the opportunity to use cultural translation to get your point across. So you're somebody that understands ceremony, that is not a formality. It is an invitation to witness the person that you're spending your life with. That is deep. Novias en Cafecito is a channel. It's a other offering, but it's not your full positioning. It's absolutely beautiful. It is community, and it's where people find you and trust you, but it is not your identity. It's just one of the rooms. The reason why I say rooms is because I always talk about building the house and the foundation. Dora Lisette has this really beautiful framework where she talks about casa, right? I operate in the same methodology with building my brands. Everything you're building is a house and there's a foundation. The branding is the art on the wall, but branding means nothing if people don't have the address, people don't know how to get there, people don't know where the bathroom is, people don't know where they can find the things that they want. So the Novias and Cafecito is a room. It's a room within the House of Mercy. And you can have multiple rooms. So this is what I would want you to play with. I don't feel that your positioning is bilingual officiant. I think that your positioning is more the ceremony architect for Latina families who want culture in the room or something to that effect. Because your service is weddings and quinceañera, but your community is Novias and Cafecito. And then your differentiator is that you don't just make space for culture, you center culture. And family walk away feeling like the ceremony was theirs and not just a template from any other officiant with their names plugged in. I've been to weddings where the officiant is boring and I'm like, my God, like you are just killing this vibe. And then I've been to weddings where the officiant creates these environments. And I know that that's you creating language that talks about the feeling of what happens when someone gets to experience how you bring these people into union, which is very powerful. Then we went into what feels out of alignment. And so that is, are you all three? Yes, and. They all play a different role. They all have a different room in the house. One is the master bedroom, one is the guest room, one is the living room, one is the kitchen. And so it would be helpful for you if you actually drew a house and figure out how they all play with you in the center and establishing the hierarchy so that it all feels like it connects, but you don't feel like you're splitting yourself apart when it comes to identity. And then when I asked, what does winning look like for you? And you said a grounded win would be making enough consistent income for my business to confidently leave my part-time job. Let's talk revenue. I fucking love talking about revenue. How many ceremonies are you doing a month right now?
A month on average, 4 to 5, and just started in May.
That's great.
Here in the Midwest with the weather, it starts in May. 2 weeks ago, I had 6 ceremonies in one weekend.
Wow.
So it's getting busy.
Okay, you're going to quit your part-time job. I love that for you. So you do 6 ceremonies in one weekend, but typical average is about 4 to 5 a month. How much do you charge per ceremony?
A full ceremony, it's $500.
I say this with love. You're undercharging. So we need to fix that first. Culturally rooted, bilingual ceremony designed in Chicago, which is a prime city, right?
Yes.
Okay, big city. That is not a $500 service. That is a $1,500 to $3,000. And we can do sliding scales for those couples, brides who cannot afford the fee. But the service really should be dependent on the complexity of the ceremony. And if volume is the issue, then Novias and Cafecito should be feeding your pipeline in some way. Are you converting community members into clients?
I've had two brides from Novias y Cafecito.
Okay. How are you promoting Novios and Cafecito right now?
Right now, just through Instagram, Facebook, I have TikTok. Those are like, the main one is Instagram.
So here's the thing about social media. That is not a community. And the reason why I say that is if it ceases to exist, you lose your audience. So I want you to create something that is yours, that is your IP, that you can talk to them without ever needing to rely on an algorithm or ever need to spend money on ads to get and reach the people that you want. I would encourage you to have a newsletter that could be called Novias and Cafecito. And if you started to create a checklist on all the things that brides need to come prepared with, you can start feeding your pipeline. So that can be a free lead magnet on your website, not to give you more work, but to give you the right work, because social media is one channel, but it is not something you own. And I don't want you renting your community. I want you to own your community. And if your business model is relying on just social media, you are renting your audience. To own your audience and to actually build an experience in a community, you need to have email or a place where they can gather. So for example, I have the glow up hour, I have the table, I have the council, I have my website, I have my blog, I have my newsletter. Mercy, you have such an opportunity because one, it is so niche, but it's also so needed. It is also so relevant. And you can position yourself as the authority that regardless of legislation and law, you believe in the power of love. And that is a common through line. And that could be one of your anchor branding pillar positionings. And then how you break that up is all of the different channels. So LinkedIn should be a very big channel that you communicate on. Having a newsletter community, it doesn't need to be an expensive subscription. Free 99 in this beginning stage is always the best. I started with Flowdesk and it was the best. It was easy. They have templates. A newsletter really connects with people on such a different level because you get to be more intimate with them. Social media, yes, you can be intimate, but then at the same time, the reality is we are fighting for attention. We're competing for attention on social media. How everyone is digesting information has changed so much that even commercials appear like an Instagram ad. Why? Because you're trying to appeal to how we now understand and digest information. So I don't want you to miss out a population of bringing people into your world. Imagine if it also felt like a diary. I just was able to officiate the most beautiful couple, and this is what they shared in their vows. And then you're giving ideas for other brides and couples to be like, oh my God, that's such a brilliant idea. And then your newsletter becomes this community in place that people subscribe to understand trends, to understand what's happening when it comes to LGBTQIA rights, when it comes to love, when it comes to wedding, when it comes to, these are my top 3 things. This is my favorite thing for positioning: to sell without selling. These are the top 3 things you need to look for in an officiant so that you are saying to them, this is what you need. And then in the caption or in your newsletters, and if that feels like something that would help make your ceremony the unforgettable moment to really represent your love, I'm your girl. This is why I think newsletter and community is your space versus just social media, because it allows you to build that up into a brand and you can then start monetizing it. You can start doing partnerships. We also need to be comfortable saying no. Not every dollar is a dollar worth having, because sometimes the people who we charge less for require so much more work. I do think you're undercharging, and I'm going to give you all of this much more succinct. I'm doing this live. I'll send you an email so that you can start building that world. People will want to build community. I'm like, sure, community is great. I want you to build a world. A world is where you can monetize. A world is where you can start making money. Community is a place where they gather. It's not always the place where money is made, and we all need to be making money.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of people tell me to raise my prices, but honestly, us as, Latinos, we don't really want to pay.
Their problem. That's not your problem to solve. Make other people's problem your problem, because you also have livelihood to take care of. Let them get some basic officiant, not you, right? You can do a sliding scale where maybe once a quarter or once a month, you can have people enter to win a $500 service instead of a $2,500. That's how you also build your list. But that is not where you start at. It's not fair to you.
True.
We can't just say they don't want to pay this and then adjust ourselves and our expertise to meet them there. Part of investment is helping people, changing the mindset into getting them to where we know that they can be at. Because believe me, I have seen the same people complain about something, but then they have $400 sneakers on.
Oh, yeah.
People understand that they can make money. They just don't know how to utilize it right. Do not make other people's problem your problem. We're going to change your prices, Mercy. It's going to be uncomfortable, but you need to change your prices.
Okay.
Okay. I got you, girl. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
If you want to understand your big 3 in business and what it means astrologically, because she also goes through pricing and energy for branding, please collaborate with her, work with her, because I had such a privilege listening to my own astrology, and I was like, dang, it lit me up. Thank you, Tiffany. The stage is yours.
Thank you, amiga. I am so delighted to get to share with you all one of the biggest passions in my life, as well as one of the most life-changing practices that I've really embarked on. So my journey from healthcare to self-care, I used to be in the operating room for over a decade. And in being there for so long and seeing so many surgical procedures, it really made me think, what if there was another way? What if people could tune in before the knock got louder, right? We all have different symptoms that come up in our body that a lot of times as women, we tend to ignore because we want to soldier on. And understanding your astrology supports you not only in doing that for yourself and your personal well-being, but your health is really the engine behind your business. And so in my experience from healthcare, it really inspired me to get more on the preventative side of medicine in the work that I do now through yoga, sound, and astrology. My husband and I opened up the very first Latino-owned social wellness club aquí in Los Angeles. And we are delighted to support entrepreneurs in bridging their work and wellness under one roof. Because again, I firmly believe, especially with seeing all of the surgeries on the table, that we don't have any business without our wellness. It's really imperative. All we need is your big three. And just as a general overview, what you'll get out of our session today is understanding how to actually utilize your big three. Today, you're going to know what that freaking means, how to apply it. I am an applied astrologer. This New Yorker is going to make sure that you can integrate this stuff as soon as we get off of this call. How these placements are running your business right now and letting you know, okay, where are some areas for growth and opportunity, as well as how to stop building against your blueprint, because I feel like that's the thing that stops us from flourishing. I left healthcare 4 years ago. I'm on to my second business right now. And the fact that I was able to start 2 businesses in 4 years, being a first generation Latina with no entrepreneurial background, is a testament of the work of astrology and how you can utilize it. So a really quick way to assess your astrology and making it applicable is this perspective of the 4 elements. So fire, air, earth, and water. We utilize these elements in our everyday life, right? We talk about certain people, oh, they're a spitfire, or oh, they got really fired up. These tend to be those who have strong Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius placements. Vanessa has a lot of fire in her chart, and we can feel that, right, when she's talking. And that fire is passion. Those who have prominent placements of fire are very energetic. They're action-oriented. Tell me Vanessa's not action-oriented, right? Like she literally supports us, inspires us to move, right? And the way she speaks to us is very direct. These are all fiery qualities. Those who have a lot of airy qualities, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, tend to be very intellectual, right? They tend to be focused on mindset, curiosity. Air signs are really big on freedom. So you might notice sometimes air signs have a hard time committing to things, but that's because they really want to have an expansive life and one that allows them to be autonomous and free. They're very curious. Air signs love peopling because as we're peopling, we're able to see another perspective. That's why it's so imperative for us to be in community. I have a lot of Gemini in my chart, hence why I opened up a social club. So earth signs, these are Taurus, Virgo, and Capricorn. Earth signs are really great with giving you practical steps. So you'll notice if you're the person who has a checklist and something wasn't on your checklist and you add it onto the list just so you could check it, you likely have earth in your chart. Earth signs tend to be very dependable, service oriented. For Vanessa's chart as well, out of her big 3, 2 of them are earth. So if you think about everything she says, I'm going to hold your hand very lovingly, right? She's very service oriented, dependable, reliable. That sense of safety is what the earth signs support us in providing, in experiencing. And that's why as earth signs, we like routine, because when you have a routine, it's one less thing to think about. Now, the water signs, these are those of us that our intuition is our superpower. We can feel beyond where the eyes can see, right? We know something's up, and we also know when things are in alignment. So these are Cancer, Scorpio, Pisces. So literally looking at each of these elements, you can see how people have fiery personalities. Sometimes we say when we're overstimulated, right? Mentally, we say, I need a breather. Oh, I need some grounding, right? When we feel overwhelmed, or I just want to go with the flow, the water. So we utilize these textures in our everyday life. And ultimately, in looking at your birth chart, it lets you know your proportions of these elements. Because you might be like, Tiff, I could see a little bit of myself in every single one of those categories. And that's great, because ultimately, nature invites us to live in harmony. If we have too much fire in the chart, we could be quite aggressive. Y demasiado, right? If you have too much water, so go with the flow. You're never landing the plane. You're never actually getting shit done, right? So in understanding your birth chart, it gives you a deeper understanding of these proportions and how to work with them. But not only that, how to find greater harmony in the areas that are asking you to grow. So your big 3, I like to think of them as the main characters of your birth chart. If you haven't already scanned, pull up your birth chart. And if you don't know your time, put 12 p.m. This is going to give us a guesstimate. If and when we do readings together, I'll dive deeper, but I still want you to walk away with some tangible practices that you can integrate. So on the birth chart, you're going to have a chart that looks like this. This is actually my chart. You're going to see at a glance what we just covered. All the blue is the water. All the green is the earth, and then fire, and then air is yellow. So at a glance, you can see without knowing any major things about astrology, okay, this person has a lot of water and earth in their chart. So for me, I'm very spiritual, as well as I love making things practical, which is why I've studied applied astrology and not a lot of those other esoteric versions of it. So on your chart, this little icon is your sun, the moon, and then your rising. Somebody was asking the ASC rather is your rising sign. And there's a graph right underneath this circle that lets you know exactly where everything is. Okay, so as we start to dive deeper, your big three is referred to your big three because it shows up in big ways in your everyday life. Your big three, just knowing these placements lets you know what your natural gifts are, how you process stress, how you can restore energy, which is a bigger thing, and how ultimately you can show up as your best self. So your sun sign, this is your birthday, right? This is what comes naturally for you. This is what lights your fire. Whenever I'm doing readings, I tend to see all women. When women say, I feel like I'm losing myself, immediately I know they need to pour into their sun sign because they don't feel like themselves, right? And so as a founder, this is your battery. This is what is the spark that keeps your engine going. So it's really imperative. And that's why I always say, if you don't know your birth time, because I know a lot of immigrants and people that are adopted don't have their exact birth time, there's so much we could do with your sun sign. And there's something also called a rectification process. So whether you do a reading with me or someone else, a rectification process helps you know your exact birth time. And I want to say that because I know a lot of us come from immigrant families. Your moon sign lets you know how to nurture yourself. The moon is Mama Nature. It's the very nurturing energy, very feminine energy. So this lets us know our responses to stress, our emotional needs, and how we can fully replenish. The rising sign, this is your growth edge. This is the part that a lot of people see in you que usualmente we don't see in ourselves. And so this is a reminder that you in this lifetime have come to step into your higher self, because I firmly believe if we're not growing, we're dying. And so this is your chart ruler. This is your rising sign. Anytime I'm doing readings for people, I always check in, how are you feeling? Just to get like a pulse, right? Of like the emotions. Now, every single zodiac sign has a high vibration and a low vibration. The high vibration is when you're living in alignment, when you're in flow, when things are coming to you and you're like, I don't even know what it is. These are the high vibrations of every single zodiac. For our fire signs, when they get to be honest, live in their fire, be blunt, be funny, right? Because they bring the joy, the laughter, and they're very direct. When they get to be and feel like themselves, they are authentic leaders. They get to initiate and not wait for permission, right? They're inspiring others. For our air signs, these are those of us who are talkers. We're the talkers. We love intellect, concepts, ideas. I always say, I'm an ideas girly. I have so many ideas. And then the earth in my chart is like, all right, what's the practical steps I need to do to focus for this quarter on what needs to get done? So these are our friends that are Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, grounded, systems oriented. We're really big on high quality. That's why we're so intentional. We want to create things slow and steady. So you might notice when you have a lot of earth in your chart, that at least when you're living in the high vibration, right? That's the green flag, that you're working at things poco a poco. She also has prominent earth in her chart, and she's been working with Manifest House in a very intentional, methodical way. She didn't start Manifest House 1 year and then it was like, next year I'm gonna do something different, right? She's had Manifest for 5-6 years and has been very consistent with it. Water signs, these are those of us that are the feelers, the creatives, the visionaries. Again, the ones that can feel beyond where the eyes can see. They go beyond the practicality and they visualize what is possible. Now, the low vibration, whenever you're like living in disharmony, it comes out for the fire signs as passive aggressive, argumentative, sarcastic, right? Because the fire is still going to express itself. It's still going to move through, but in a low vibrational way. So the remedy for that is working out, athletic movement, even comedies. Because when you're laughing, you're literally heating up your body. You're allowing your fire to be and to feel expressed. So it's moving through you. For the air signs, so the low vibration of air signs, if you ever catch yourself gossiping, talking more than you listen, right? Because effective communication is not just talking, it's being an effective listener as well. If you have that stinking thinking, that negative mindset, the way you clear the air, journaling, reading, peopling, being in community. This helps you broaden your perspective and gain clarity. So whenever your mind's like of all the hamster wheel of thoughts, this is how you clear that air so it has a place to land. So it's not just sitting here. For our earth signs, we tend to get grumpy, stubborn, and stuck because we're like, why do I always have to be the responsible one? Why can't everybody else get their shit together? And so when you feel like that, earthing, literally take your shoes off, walk barefoot, touch the soil. Having a routine helps you to feel more grounded. Stillness, water signs. For when you feel overwhelmed by emotions to the point that it is causing depression, that you're living in the past, how you move through that, how you clear the water so that it's flowing and not stagnant, crying. Allow yourself to be expressed, to feel expressed. This was the element that I honestly had the hardest time connecting with, despite all the water in my chart. Because in New York, it's like if you're emotional, like that's a risk. So I really lived a lot of my life with subduing the water because I want it to be productive. So the remedy for our water signs is remembering motion changes your emotion. So if you're feeling depressed, overwhelmed, how can I move myself? Dance, music, right? When you're listening to music, it emotes. You are feeling things on a whole other level. And I like to give that reference of like when you're at Trader Joe's and there's an old school nostalgic song that comes on, you see how it impacts everyone. So moving on to the moon sign. So it doesn't feel like you're doing the most, right? You're wearing the red light mask, listening to the affirmations, getting your steps in. Your moon sign tells you how you can be really intentional with your timing, with your self-care. So for the fire signs, anytime you're feeling any of this low vibration, this is how you can light your fire. This is how you can align more fully with bringing back that vibrance through play, even candles, comedies. Air signs, if you're feeling any of these low vibrations of air on a daily basis, you need a breather, right? So whether that's using essential oils, candles, anything that helps you breathe more deeply, breath work, courses, all of these things. Now closing out with these last two signs, for our earth signs, if you're feeling stuck in your earth, eating colorfully, connecting to earth, having plants in the house. Your mind knows no different if the plants are real or fake. That's the reason why spas have plants, right? They support us in grounding, feeling nurtured, walking, hiking, and then our water signs. So this is how you clear the water through literally listening to water, having a water fountain in your house, singing, dancing. Whenever I'm not singing or dancing, I know I'm not feeling like myself because I'm a Cancer sun. So this is literally my remedy because when we're moving our body, we're feeling, we're present. We are just looking at a snapshot. If I was looking at a full picture of a person, this is just the foundation of the person, the bottom half. To get the full picture, you have to look at the entire birth chart. And so if you want to do that with me, you can book a reading here. We are also giving to our Glow Up community here. We're gifting you a free co-working pass at our social club. If you want to dive deeper into astrology and just learn more about this type of astrology, I also have a Substack. Thank you, Vanessa.
First of all, you're incredible. Thank you so much, Tiffany. That was so affirming for so many of us. There are a lot of people that were like, oh my God, this all makes a lot of sense. What you do is such a gift. Please, everybody subscribe to us Substack. So I'm really grateful, Tiffany, that you decided to bless us with this gift as we close out our last glow up. Let me compose myself a little emotionally because I do want to say a little something before we go. This room has changed me in the most incredible way. I think when you host 54 sessions of office hours, you get to know people in a very intimate way. And it's such a privilege to have seen so many of you move and progress and not stir the same fucking pot over and over and over, because it's so easy to want to just stay in the discomfort because that's comfort for us. If we grew up in chaos, that feels normal. But so many of you have chosen to break free of that, not be in the victim mindset, not allow yourself to stay regurgitating the same story over and over that doesn't serve you. And instead you did something about that. So being able to witness that was such a treat. And watching you all find each other, watching you go from I have an idea to I have a business to I'm making a fuck ton of money doing that has been a privilege. And watching the ones who decided to invest in themselves actually become different people. Thank you all. A few reminders. You have heard me talk about Thrive and Lead. That is the conference where power, wealth, health, and women are converging. Patty and I are creating this environment, this experience in Las Vegas in September so that we can bring back spaces where we can be our full selves. If you want to keep working with me directly, the table is the room. June is sold out with overflow. I will be back in the fall, and I shared the waitlist there, but it'll also have it in a newsletter. And I'm also on Instagram every day. Let's connect there. One last thing, please don't let this be the last time that you're in a room like this. Find a room, create the room, or pay for the room. Be in proximity to women who make you better. That's how we build. That's how we keep growing. That's how we keep becoming that version of ourselves. And you can change your mind. If you're not the same person, you can change your fucking mind and do something better for yourself. You need to choose you. In a life full of choices, I need you to choose you. Thank you for the last 4.5 years. Thank you for the last year of Glow Up. And I'll see you in the next room, because it's never goodbye. It's just a new chapter. I appreciate you all so much. Thank you.
I am so grateful that I get to call you a friend just beyond these monthly sessions. You have impacted so many of us. You have talked some of us off the ledge, so to speak. I know I've sent you voice memos crying, not knowing what to do. You are just such an amazing person. And I just want to say thank you so much. I know that this is not the end of our friendship and your friendship with so many of us. What you do here is so important. What you've done has been so important. And I know we're cheering you on. I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of my life.
Oh, I just love how you communicate. Thank you. This is why you're such an incredible podcast host. And also, I was on her podcast. I will include the link in the newsletter because I want everybody to listen to it and to support. So many of us have podcasts. Can we please support each other's podcasts? It makes such a big deal. It allows us to then bring in sponsors so that we can make money. Every single time I listen to a podcast from someone within the community, I actually learn more than if it's packaged and regurgitated from someone who is not cultured, that knows how to just say the things in a different way, but it doesn't come from lived experience. So I please ask all of you to support one another's podcast, because it takes a lot of work to edit that and to create it. My own newsletter has a podcast, and so many people actually prefer the audio because it feels like I'm either talking to them or yelling at them or hugging them or seducing them. Depends on the vibe. So thank you all. Thank you, Jessica, for those beautiful words. Thank you, Tiffany. Thank you to all my friends who show up even when they're busy, for those that have spoken, to Yomo, who always fills me with so much love and heart, and for the women that will continue to be part of all the different iterations and who have offered to support me in so many ways.
I just want to say that I'm very proud of you. You're leading with example. You're showing the way. You're not doing free 99. I know the conviction that you live your life with which you've hosted these spaces for all of us, the way that you've changed our lives. I love you. I'm incredibly proud of you.
Luisa, first of all, Luisa is the one that sends me the most voice notes with the most loving things, and I always respond a week later, but she knows that that's just my ADHD.
I just want to say I learned so absolutely much from you, love. Because of you and your belief in what I was building, we just hit our 100,000 client. And so it has been blood, sweat, and tears. And this platform was a major part of it, a major part of it. I believe we all carry each other. And so would love to help in any way I can with your conference and to help sponsor if anything you need. I am literally a phone call away, whatever you need.
That makes me so fucking happy, because not only are you self-funded, you just don't give up. And you've been through the fucking ringer and you don't give up. And I love that about you. Thank you. I just need to remind you, please, you do not need to be ashamed about wanting to get paid to do the things that you love. They can coexist. It's so important that we cannot be the ones that are building so much, but then are struggling to sustain. It is not fair. It is not right. And I need you all to be comfortable with holding the kind of money that allows you to do more beautiful things in the world. You're so loved. If you haven't heard that, I love you. I respect you. I admire you. You are doing fucking great. You are doing such a good job. Thank you for the privilege of filling my heart. Don't forget that the community spreadsheet that has everybody's contact information is still live and will remain live. So I'll make sure to include that in the recap email so we stay connected. We keep helping each other. We make a fuck ton of money and we become unfuckable with. This is your year of becoming lethal. Don't fucking forget who you are. I love you all. We'll talk soon. Bye.